Welcome to Beneath the Surface with TJ Woodward and Rachel Kove. In a world that often moves quickly and stays on the surface, this is a space where we slow down and turn inward. Together, we explore what lives beneath our stories, our reactions, and the ways we've been conditioned to see ourselves, others, and the world. We dive into themes of recovery, trauma, identity, polarization, and conscious living. Let's begin. Welcome back. We are about to, you guessed it, go beneath the surface and talk about a topic for some reason that is not discussed, in my opinion, enough, and that is sex. So Rachel, we're going to just jump right in.
Yeah.
But I want to start with the question for you.
Yeah.
Why is it that we mostly in our culture don't talk about sex?
Because sex makes people uncomfortable, because it wasn't talked about in their home growing up, because whatever doesn't get discussed is experienced as something shameful.
Right.
I ran a group, I think this was 2020. And to this day, you know how you run 1,000 groups and then there's 3 groups that you'll always remember? Mm-hmm. This was one of those groups. And it was a group of all men. And the topic was sex and porn. And I'll never forget it because of the impact and the effect that it had on them and the change in how I saw porn and sex for me. And this isn't about porn. This is about one's relationship to sex, to porn, to all things related to sex, right? Which porn can often be related to sex. The entire group felt so relieved by the conversation. They said, I wish my parents did not make it so awkward to talk about sex. And this is such a deep subject. And I have a lot of opinions. And because I've been working professionally with thousands of people for 16 years, I've been able to see patterns in every race, every gender, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, whether you're 16, 18, it's usually pretty much the same, right? Whatever wasn't talked about, there was an experience of shame attached to it.
Yeah.
And what's so sad about this is it's complicated because of the history of this subject in our country, in our world, the trauma of what people have what people have experienced because of the lack of conversation.
Right.
Because we're bodies, we're animals, we have sexual desires, right? And we're also almost never told how to control those sexual desires. We're not talked to by the people that guide us, right? What does it mean to have a desire? What does it mean to have attraction to someone? What is an orgasm? Is it supposed to feel good? Is it supposed to feel bad? What if we ask these questions? Well, if you ask these questions, but you're raised in a home where the parents have a lot of shame attached to the subject, or they have a history of sexual abuse or a history of being objectified, then the tension that is experienced in the body around the subject of shame, of sex is so overwhelming that they avoid it, or they'll shame you.
Yeah.
And then you go to school, you can't talk about it. It's uncomfortable, right? I mean, to this day, I feel it. And I'm pretty open about sex because I'm trying to do something different. I'm trying to do my part in ameliorating the shame around it, because it's the shame that's creating continuous sexual abuse. It's the shame that's creating rape. I interviewed someone on my show one time, and they were talking about rape culture in college and how normalized it is.
Yeah. And so many layers.
So many
layers. And I also did a group on sex that I loved, where I just brought it on an old school boombox, put it in the middle of the room and played, let's talk about sex. The clients, they like turned all different colors. but it ultimately became the most powerful experience and one of the groups I most remember too. And now most of my work is training clinicians. And I will say, if you are not talking about sex in treatment, I want to invite you to ask yourself why.
Exactly.
Who's uncomfortable here? Because most humans are sexual beings. There are exceptions to that, but that's pretty rare. And I think we end up just saying things like, let's not talk about that because it's uncomfortable. But I want to take a deeper dive because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Growing up in a home where there was sexual trauma everywhere.
Yes.
My mom and her sisters all experienced some form of sexual abuse. And a lot of the men on the other side of my family were what today we would call perpetrators. But that back then we didn't say that, right? Back then we called them men. And I don't mean to be derogatory. It's just the way it was. And my own sexual trauma that happened when I was 3 years old, I didn't have a memory of that until I was probably 30 years old, 35 years old. And I got sober at 20. So I'm 15 years into my recovery saying things like, I have symptoms of someone who has sexual trauma. I feel this weight on my shoulder. I can't breathe. I eroticize certain things that I was curious about. Not from a place of judgment, but from like, oh, that's interesting. And when I was in 2003, so however old I would have been, 38, we went back to my small town in Indiana. I was with my two sisters. And the town is so small that you can knock on the door and they'll let you come in the house and see where you used to live. And I got to the top of the stairs of the basement and my entire body just started shaking. And I knew that's where it happened. I knew what age I was, when it happened. I'm not completely clear on the multiple men that were in the room, but I have an idea. The reason I want to take that deep dive is I had so much shame, not so much around sex, but around being a sexual being.
Totally.
Not to mention, or to add to, being a little gay boy in Indiana in the 1970s. And I didn't have the experience that a lot of people do that's normal in the preteen and teen years of like trying these things out. I was sexually shut down. I compartmentalized sex and love. And I was absolutely terrified of becoming a man and becoming a sexual being because of what it meant. Now, I know that was a lot, but I want to speak to that because it's more prevalent in our culture than many people are aware of.
It's underneath everything in our culture. It's underneath everything in our culture. First of all, I just want to say I'm so honored to be in this space with you talking about this because you're such a safe person to talk about it with. And it takes so much courage to admit when you've been harmed by another person sexually. And me too. A lot throughout my life. And I'm so motivated to be a part of a different conversation around this. I'm not interested in being a part of conversation where I blame men and women. I'm not interested in the blame anymore. I'm interested in changing our relationship to sex. I'm interested in changing the language that we use around it. I'm interested in understanding the body, right? I'm interested in understanding healthy connection and safety because of the history of this subject in this country, in this world. Every human being is going to have a different relationship to sex. There is not one way that works better for everybody, right? The one rule, I believe, is consent. That's the rule, right? And do not have sex with children and do not sexually abuse a child. When you become someone who is informed later on in life, right? Now, you talked about this before. The age of consent is different in various different states. I don't know what the right answer is for the age. I really don't know. I do know that it starts to become natural to be curious about sex at different ages. And now, because of social media, because of what people have access to, it is happening much younger. And I know that when I was a child, it was everywhere. Right? It was everywhere.
What's so interesting is we live in a culture that is hypersexualized, but also doesn't talk about it or has shame about it. That in itself creates this dissociative experience of compartmentalization.
It also creates tension, which is very eroticizing. Yeah, because it's such mixed messages, right? Every advertisement thing, right?
Every advertisement thing.
Every advertisement thing is pretty much like, how can I be the hottest, most sexy human on the planet, whether I'm a man or a woman, however you identify, right? How can I make you want to look at me? How can I attract you to this picture, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And also, well, what messaging are we giving if we, as women too, like, and we were talking about this, women want to be sexual beings and have it be so accepted. Women want safe sex. So do men. But it's complicated because sex and your relationship to sex has also everything to do with how you were raised. Not just your parents, but culture. Culture is almost more impactful because you leave from the time a child is 0 to 8. You're getting your self-esteem from parents. After 8, you're starting to seek out culture and what's normal in culture related to what's okay in my experience of being human. So if sex is bad, if I can't talk about sex, right? I'm going to go hide and do something in hiding, right? So it's bad. Whatever I like is bad, right? And I've actually talked to friends about this where I go, I wonder if orgasms would be less intense if there wasn't hiding around the orgasm and however you're getting off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And another layer that I think is worth leaning into is we vilify a person who finds young people attractive, but we also hypersexualize our young people. It's like beauty pageants with makeup and like, it's wild.
It's wild.
And then we move into the right, wrong, good, bad instead of like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, let's be curious about what we're doing.
Well, let's talk about it.
That's right.
And then to piggyback off what we've talked about before, if we can't ask the questions because of how we're afraid of being perceived and just asking the questions, we can't create solutions, right? I should have had people be informing me about predators as a child. I was almost kidnapped twice by the time I was 10 years old. I was in a store in Barnes & Noble and I was 8. And I was walking around the store and this man, I saw him. He followed me in the store and he was tracking me. And I was riddled with fear. My mom wasn't near me. She was downstairs. She was somewhere downstairs and I was on the other end of the store. So I felt really scared. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll go on the escalator and I'll see what he does. I still get emotional. Whew. I get on the escalator. He gets on the other escalator. He follows me to the second floor. I look at a book and I'm tracking him. And I don't know where this CIA agent energy comes up with the child, but children are intelligent, right? And he starts following me. And everything in me said, run. And I ran to my mom and I said, we need to leave the store right now. And she didn't question me. She didn't tell me I was dramatic. She said, okay. You know why? She went through that as a kid.
Yeah.
She was followed. What is it that is going on where people are attracted to children? And I'm not saying this to vilify. I'm saying this because we need to create something different because it's not working. Whatever we're doing now is not working.
One of the things we're doing, and this is a controversial topic, there's two different roads I could go down. Both are deep and somewhat controversial, but I'm going to choose this one because of your story. We end up saying those people are evil, and therefore we don't help them heal, and therefore the cycle continues.
Yep.
Because we make them bad or wrong. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying the behavior is okay, but when I was at an interfaith breakfast, and a person from the VA came and said, veterans in our country get lifelong benefits unless they're sexual predators, then we take the benefits away. Now, I understand that we live in a culture that punishes, but I want to ask what that is creating. I am not saying that a person's behavior, if they're doing that, is okay. But do you see how it's almost like I feel like I have to say that so someone doesn't hear me saying it's okay what they're doing.
Of course.
What I am saying is it's not okay for me to like make them evil and then just lock them up.
No.
Now, there are people, I want to be clear, there are people who probably need to be locked up and so society can be safe. But even in that, what are we doing for them? Are we helping them heal? If we're only in the victim perpetrator mindset and we only think the person who needs the healing is the victim, which of course they do.
Yeah.
We have to also look at like what are we going to do for their perpetrators?
Right. So I've been sexually assaulted many times.
Yeah.
I have forgiven those people. I'm more interested in how are those people going to heal themselves when we live in a society where if that person goes to tell someone, I'm having sexual desires that I want to take out on this woman or this child, right? And I know it's wrong. But if I tell that person,
they have to report me.
They have to report me, right? There was a documentary about this. I actually know the director, and it was about incest, and it was on YouTube, and got a lot of views. And I remember watching it when I was younger, and I remember having so much compassion for the people that were perpetrating others. I was always born with an interesting amount of compassion where I was able to go beyond the behavior and look at what happened to that person growing up where this became okay. You know, and I think now there's a lot of shows coming out like the Menendez Brothers show on Netflix, the Dahmer show on Netflix. And I think it's incredible what can happen with art where it makes you ask why. What they did was horrific. The behavior is bad. But why did that happen? And if we don't just put them in a box of good and evil, and if we can look at their childhood, not condone the behavior, but it's the same thing with alcoholism, right? How did you land in alcoholism? How did you land in, I'm going to sexually assault this person and take away their ability to choose, and I'm going to feel my power as a man or a woman by making you feel powerless, right? How is that where you landed? Can we be curious of that, right? Now, in order for me to land here where I am now, I had to process my rage, right? I had to feel my anger. I'm still feeling it. I had to feel my rage towards these people that took their unprocessed trauma out on me. And I do not want to hold my resentment in my body for the rest of my life, right? Because I deserve to feel as free as I possibly can. So I always tell people, whatever happened to you is not your fault.
Right.
It's your mess to clean up though, or it's your responsibility to now heal.
That's right. Well, and it's the thing that happens is when we're stuck in the good, bad, right, wrong paradigm, perpetrator, victim, and if I identify as the victim, and like you said, of course, it wasn't a person's fault, but I like to be a little bit provocative by saying one of the worst things I can say to someone is it wasn't your fault. And that's the other avenue I wanted to go down because like people blame themselves because of the developmental, because it might have felt good. Maybe they went back again. I mean, there's so many layers that we don't talk about with sexual trauma that they end up having shame. And if I say to them, it wasn't your fault, rather than tell me what you decided about yourself, about the world, about men, about sex, about life, that's the important thing. It's not as much what happened, but more what we absorbed and decided. When we can empower someone, we can start to move into not forgiveness, but into making peace. Because what happens is, as long as we stay in the what they did was wrong and I was a victim, it's part of the process for most of us. I would never want to try to make someone get out of that part of the process, but to start to question it. Because I've worked with clients like you for many, many years I've worked with clients that say, until this person admits they were wrong, I can never be free. And the person wasn't alive. So I said, what are we going to do with that? The person's not alive. And there was something in that moment where I'm thinking of this one client where she was able to say, wow,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
And in that, wow, what am I going to do with that is where she started to find freedom.
Yeah.
Because making peace with the past is a shift in consciousness beyond good, bad, right, wrong. And I'm not saying it was okay that it happened. Of course, it wasn't the child's fault, but there's something so much deeper. The self-blame, the self-hatred, the shame that gets absorbed, that's what we want to work with. And that only happens from the inside out.
That is the thing that you're working with. I talk about this with my therapist. I've been working with the most incredible EMDR trauma specialist for 4 years. I'm so grateful for her. That is the most painful piece of sexual assault.
Yeah.
When you're a child, is you blame yourself.
Yeah.
And there's so many pieces and layers to it. And here's what I want to say. We can do hard things, as Glennon Doyle says. That can be worked through. That does not have to be how you live the rest of your life. It is a protective part. It is a strategy. I blamed myself so that I could be in control, right? I remember, and I'm still working through this, I would try to make myself not as pretty. Because it wasn't even just the sexual assault as a child, as a teenager. It was, I felt like an object in a world around a lot of men, older men.
Yeah.
I felt like I was going to be eaten. That was the experience. My mom always taught me, like, pay attention to how you feel. What do you feel when you're around this person? And a lot of the time around older men, I felt like meat. And it was the energy that was being directed towards me. And I also want to say there's a lot of boys that went through this by women. There's a lot of girls that went through this by women. So it's on both sides, right? And one can heal this, right? It's going to take a tremendous amount of compassion. And the reason I love you so much is the language you provide is so expansive. It's not rigid. The retraction that you're talking about, the constriction, I don't want to feel that way anymore. I know what that feels like. More than anything in my life, I want to feel big. I want to feel limitless possibility, right? If I'm not what happened to me, right? Okay, that's so much bigger than I'm just traumatized. I'm bipolar. I'm borderline. And that has its space. For me personally, I don't want to feel like just because someone did something to me, I'm now sick the rest of my life. I'm now traumatized the rest of my life, right? I don't want to identify with the trauma because that happens too. I don't want to identify with the sexual assault. I don't want to believe that that's my life forever, right? I want to be able to be powerful enough to choose and say, okay, that happened to me. It was completely unfair. It was something that was out of my control. Okay, what did I do to get in control? Right? And I love this paradigm. Again, my friend Joe talks about this. What limiting decision did I make at that moment?
That's right. Because what did I decide and absorb is way more important than what happened. And we're not minimizing what happened. And the nuanced conversation that we're having is, yes, it hurt. Yes, it was painful. Yes, this horrific thing happened. We're not minimizing that. And yet we're at a point where there is a point when I realize that I can stay stuck there because of what I absorbed and decided. And then, as you're saying, the strategies for survival that I started adopting.
Yeah.
And then that becomes my automatic way of being in the world. We can work with that. And I've had actually people say to me that it sounds like I'm victim blaming. It's the opposite. I'm saying, we have the power to heal. You are no longer bound by this one experience or this series of experiences because there's a place within you that's more powerful than that. I know we can talk for a long time, Rachel. I know we can. I'm going to guess that people put in the comments what you want to hear us talk more about, because I have a sense that this is going to be a conversation that's important to continue. So please comment and let us know what you want us to talk about. And let us be a resource for you with that.
Yes, I want to wrap this up.
Please, yes.
you just saw me smiling and going, ooh, there is nothing in me that is making fun of this or laughing about this. I want to be clear. I know what it's like to navigate the complexities of being sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to you is there is so much opportunity to really know who you are through this process. It's going to take a lot of compassion. It's going to take safe people around you that can listen to you, that can understand you, that can also be patient with where you are at in your process. And you've been one of those friends for me, and I want to thank you for that deeply, because people's reactions to you when you're healing from sexual trauma can be really helpful or really harmful. So know who to share this information with. I definitely encourage you to seek out trauma therapy if you can afford it. If you don't have the resources, there's also so many other available resources that are available. There's a lot of books out there that can really help you navigate the impact of trauma. The Body Keeps the Score. Honestly, any conscious recovery book, right? Anything that TJ Woodward puts out there, it puts you beyond the box. And the last thing I'm going to say is this, and I know I'm so passionate about this. The reason why I want to move beyond the rigidity about this is because I know people that have harmed other people, and they will say, am I an evil person?
Right.
And I don't think they are.
Right.
I think it's learned behavior. I think cultural. I think there are some people that are definitely born with a lack of ability to have empathy, and those people need to have their own space. But I don't think most people are born in a way that they want to hurt other people. I don't.
Yep. And I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yes, you do.
Thank you for this important conversation. And the thing I want to close with in sort of a response to what you're saying is, if someone comes to you, to us, to me, and shares about the sexual trauma, what that person in my experience needs, I'm going to say what they don't need. They don't need fixing.
No.
They're not broken. And that is an energy more than it is even what we say. Many of us have been conditioned to believe we're supposed to say something. It's not what we say.
Yeah.
It's how we hold it.
Yeah.
The last thing I would ever want to say to someone is, I'm sorry that happened, because I don't want to be sorry. I want to be open and present and hear you.
Yeah.
And hold you both in the pain and the resiliency.
Yeah. And what not to say, because I've had people do this to me. Are you sure that's true? I had friends and family.
I laugh out of a response of how many times that has happened.
I've had family members, I've had friends be like, memories can really be tampered with. Are you sure that's true? No, I don't believe that happened. I'm sorry. And you shut it down. If you shut that down, you are creating harm. All that person needs in this moment is this. I'm here.
I'm here.
I'm with you. I'm here.
That's it.
And I love you.
That's it.
That's it.
So in closing, if you're a person who has experienced this, Rachel and I just want to let you know that we love you. We don't even have to know you to love you. And that is an important thing, because somehow in our culture, we've decided that it's okay to hate someone we don't know, but not to love someone we don't know. But love is really who and what we are. And what I want to affirm and acknowledge is, regardless of what has happened and regardless of what you've done, there is still a place within you who is, and that is whole and perfect. And that this journey is about remembering that, and also acknowledging all the ways, all the layers that we've put around our heart to protect ourselves, and that we can start to thaw out and return to that place of wholeness. So thank you, Rachel, for this very important conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Beneath the Surface. As we close, we invite you to notice what may still be resonating or unfolding within you. There's no need to resolve anything, just allow it to be met with curiosity and compassion. If this conversation was meaningful, please subscribe, share the episode, or leave a review. It helps others discover this space and continue the conversation. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, stay present, and keep exploring what lives beneath the surface.